Can you pretend to be my boyfriend for one night?" The shy cook asked the Heartbroken Cowboy. The frontier planet of Dawnbreak was the kind of place that made the stars feel far away. The sky was wide, the air was dry, and the towns were built like the Old West, wooden porches, swinging doors, dust in every corner. But above the saloons and stables, metal satellites blinked like cold eyes. Hover trucks hummed past horses. Solar lamps glowed on poles that looked like telegraph lines. Dawnbreak was half history, half future, and it never apologized for being both. Cole Rylan rode into town on a tired sandbike with a saddle stitched to the front like someone was trying hard to keep old traditions alive. He wore a brown coat that had seen too much wind. A hat sat low on his brow. His eyes looked calm, but the calm felt like a cover, like a locked door. Cole didn't come for adventure. He didn't come for friends. He came because the galaxy was too big, and somehow he still couldn't outrun the heaviness in his chest. The last place he called home was gone. Not burned down, not smashed, just taken. A land company from the inner systems had bought half the valley around his ranch, then changed the water rights, then offered him a deal that wasn't a deal at all. When he refused, they made life impossible. The ranch failed slowly, like a candle that refused to go out until there was no wax left. And on the worst night, when Cole stood alone under a sky full of stars, he realized something painful. He didn't just lose land, he lost direction, so he left. With a small bag, a worn-out photo, and the belief that if he kept moving, the ache might fade. Dawnbreak didn't care about his past. Dawnbreak cared about work. Cole rolled into Dry Creek Station, a town shaped around a single rail line and a landing pad. A sign on the main road flickered with blue letters, "Welcome to Dry Creek, fuel, food, and fare deals." Cole stopped at the edge of town, looking at the street. People moved with the steady pace of survivors, miners with dust on their boots, traders with plastic crates. Ranch hands leading cattle that looked like cows, except their horns were longer and their eyes had a strange silver shine. Cole pulled his hat down and drove deeper into town until he saw the diner. It was small, warm, and honest-looking. The front window had hand-painted words that said, "MARAS Galley, hot meals, hot coffee, no nonsense." Cole parked his sandbike and stepped inside. A bell rang above the door. The smell hit him first: fresh bread, strong coffee, stew with pepper and herbs. It felt like a memory he didn't want to admit he missed. The diner had old wooden tables, but the kitchen door was smooth steel. A few miners sat in a corner, speaking low. A rancher laughed at the counter with a mechanic. Behind the counter stood a woman with her sleeves rolled up and her dark hair tied back. She moved quickly but quietly, like she didn't want anyone to notice her. Her name was on a tag, Mara. She didn't look up right away. She wiped the counter, set down clean cups, then finally glanced toward Cole. Her eyes were steady but shy. She had a face that seemed gentle even when she tried to be serious. Cole took a seat at the counter. "Coffee," he said. Mara poured it without asking questions. She placed it in front of him, careful and precise. Then she stepped back as if distance made her feel safer. Cole took a sip. It was good, strong, real. He looked around. A sign on the wall said, "No weapons inside." Another sign said, "Pay what you owe." Dawnbreak rules were simple when people didn't have time for complicated. Cole noticed something about Myra. She didn't talk much, but she listened. When someone laughed, she smiled softly, then looked away. When someone got loud, she stiffened just a little. Like a person trained to watch for storms, a man at the far table called out, "Hey, Mara, you got that chili today?" "Yes," she answered, voice low. Cole almost didn't hear her. It wasn't fear exactly. It was carefulness. After he finished his coffee, he stood and walked to the counter. "You hiring?" he asked. Mara blinked, surprised. "Hiring?" Cole nodded toward the small bulletin board near the register. There was a paper pinned there, "Help wanted, DISHES, cleaning, supply RUNS, ask inside." Myra looked at him longer now, like she was measuring him. "You got experience?" she asked. Cole almost laughed. "I can wash dishes, I can lift crates, I can fix a fence, fix a bike, fix a broken door." "That's a lot of fixing," Myra said, and for the first time her voice sounded almost amused. Cole didn't smile. "It's what I do." Myra hesitated, then nodded. "I can pay daily, meals included, but I don't want trouble." Cole's eyes stayed steady. "I'm not here to bring it." Myra looked down at her hands. "People say that." Cole didn't argue. "Give me a chance." Myra studied him one more moment, then nodded again. "All right, start now. Grab an apron from the back." Cole went to the kitchen doorway and found a clean apron hanging on a hook. As he tied it, he noticed the kitchen was spotless, not just clean, perfect, like Mara was trying to control at least one thing in her life. He worked through the afternoon, dishes, sweeping, carrying supplies, listening, staying quiet. The town had its own rhythm. People came in, filled their bellies, talked about storms and shipments and broken engines. Cole didn't join in. He didn't want to be known. Being unknown felt like safety, but something kept pulling his attention back to Mara. She moved like someone who didn't want to be caught off guard. She kept the back door locked. She checked the front window too often. Sometimes she would pause mid-step like she heard something that wasn't there. When the last customer left and the sun fell low, Mara flipped the sign to closed. The diner became quiet except for the soft hum of the cooling unit and the distant sound of a ship landing somewhere outside town. Cole finished the last stack of dishes and hung up the towel. "You run this place alone?" he asked. Mara froze for a second like the question surprised her, then she nodded. "Mostly." "That's a lot," Mara shrugged. "It's better this way." Cole understood that kind of answer. He didn't press. He grabbed his coat and stepped outside. The sky was turning purple. Twin moons hung low. The air smelled like dust and metal. He walked toward the small bunkhouse behind the diner where Mara said he could sleep for cheap. It wasn't much, one room, a narrow bed, and a window that looked at the empty road. But it was quiet. Quiet was a gift. That night Cole lay awake longer than he wanted to. His mind kept returning to the same thing, the way Mara watched the door. He didn't know why it bothered him, maybe because he recognized it. He had seen that look in animals before a storm. In people before bad news. The next day, Cole worked again. The diner stayed busy. Mara stayed quiet, but around midday something changed. A shiny vehicle stopped outside, a hover sedan too clean for Dry Creek. The door lifted smoothly. A man stepped out wearing a dark coat with a silver pin on the collar. He looked like he belonged to money. His boots didn't touch the dust. His eyes moved over the street like he was judging everything. Cole watched from inside the diner. Mara saw him too. Her face went pale. Her hands trembled slightly as she picked up a plate. Then she turned her back fast, moving into the kitchen like she wanted to disappear. The man didn't enter the diner. He just stood outside for a moment, looking at the window, like he was checking if someone was there. Then he got back into the sedan and floated away toward the landing pad. Cole didn't like that. Later, when things slowed down, he stepped into the kitchen to put away supplies. Mara was chopping vegetables. Her knife moved fast, but her breathing wasn't steady. "You all right?" Cole asked. Mara flinched, then she forced a calm tone. "I'm fine." Cole didn't believe her, but he knew better than to push hard. Still, he couldn't stop himself. "That guy outside," he said. "He looking for you?" Mara's knife paused. Her shoulders tightened. For a long moment she didn't answer. Then she whispered, "Not here." Cole leaned back against the counter, keeping his voice low. "You don't have to tell me, but if there's trouble coming—" "There is," Mara said quickly, and the word came out sharper than she meant. She swallowed and lowered her voice again. "There is trouble." Cole watched her. "Then why stay?" Mara's eyes flicked to his face. She looked like she wanted to speak, but the words were trapped behind fear and pride. Finally, she said, "Because I built this. Because this is mine, because I don't want to run forever." Cole understood that too. The day ended, the diner closed, the street emptied. Mara wiped down the counters again and again as if the motion could keep her safe. Cole stayed behind to stack chairs. When he finished, he reached for his coat. Mara's voice stopped him. "Cole," he turned. Mara stood by the register, hands clasped tight. She looked smaller than she did during the day, like the quiet room made her fear louder. "What is it?" Cole asked. Mara swallowed. I need a favor." Cole's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in caution. "What kind of favor?" Mara stared at the floor, then forced herself to look up. Her cheeks were faintly red, but her eyes were serious. "Can you pretend to be my boyfriend for one night?" she asked. Cole blinked. The request didn't match her fear, yet it was tied to it like a knot. He didn't answer right away. Mara rushed to explain, voice shaky. "Just one night. There's a man coming. He thinks he can decide things for me. If he sees I'm not alone, if he believes someone will stand with me, he might leave, or at least hesitate." Cole felt something cold settle in his stomach. This wasn't about a simple lie. This was about protection. He took a slow breath. "Who is he?" Mara's hands tightened. "A trader, powerful, connected. He has a ship in orbit. He'll be here tonight." Cole looked past her through the diner window. Outside, the sky was darker now and the stars were sharper. Then a deep, distant sound rolled across the town, low, heavy, like thunder made of metal. Cole stepped outside. In the night sky above Dry Creek Station, a large ship moved into position. Its lights blinked in patterns that felt like signals. Its shadow slid across the ground like a warning. Cole stared up at it, his face unreadable. Behind him, Myra stood in the doorway, small and quiet, like she was waiting for a verdict. And in that moment, Cole realized the past didn't always let people walk away. Sometimes it followed them into the stars. The large ship hanging in the sky did not leave. Its silver body reflected the twin moons of dawnbreak, turning slowly like a silent watcher. People in Dry Creek Station noticed it, but they pretended not to stare. Outsiders came and went all the time. Trouble often arrived the same way, quiet at first. Cole stood outside the diner for a long moment, watching the ship. The wind moved gently across the street, carrying dust and the distant sound of machines shutting down for the night. Behind him, Mara waited. She didn't speak. She simply stood in the doorway, hands folded together as if she was afraid he might say no. Cole finally turned back toward her. "You sure pretending will help?" he asked calmly. Mara nodded quickly. "He believes in control. In contracts, in appearances, if he thinks I already chose someone, he might back away." "Might," Cole repeated. Her shoulders dropped slightly. "I know it's not perfect, but I don't know what else to do." Cole studied her face. She looked tired. Not weak, just worn from carrying too much alone. He exhaled slowly. "All right," he said. "One night." Relief crossed her face so quickly that she almost looked younger. "Thank you," she whispered. Cole raised a hand slightly. "But we do this right. If he's dangerous, we don't give him reasons to test us." Mara nodded again, serious now. They went back inside the diner. The lights felt warmer after the cold night air. Mara wiped her hands on her apron and looked at him uncertainly. I don't know how to do this," she admitted quietly. Cole almost smiled. "Pretending?" She nodded. He leaned against the counter. "Then we start simple. If someone asks, we say we met here. I came into town, needed work, you gave me a chance. That part is already true." Mara listened carefully. "We don't overact," he continued. "No big stories, real things are easier to remember." Mara nodded again. She looked nervous but focused. "What about?" She hesitated, then asked softly, "How close should we act?" Cole paused. He wasn't used to this kind of question. Relationships were something he had stopped thinking about long ago. "Comfortable," he said finally. "Enough that people believe it, not enough that you feel trapped." Mara seemed relieved by that answer. They practiced small things first. Standing side by side, talking casually, sharing short glances like people who understood each other without words. At first, it felt awkward. Mara's movements were stiff. She kept looking down, but slowly she relaxed. Cole noticed she laughed quietly when she forgot to be nervous. Her smile was soft, almost shy. "Why are you helping me?" she asked suddenly. Cole didn't answer immediately. He watched the empty tables, remembering another life far away. "Because someone should," he said simply. Mara didn't push for more. Later, they closed the diner completely and sat at one of the tables to talk through details. "What's his name?" Cole asked. Mara hesitated before answering. "Verksal." Cole repeated the name slowly. "What does he want?" Her hands tightened. "He thinks I belong to his world, his plans. He helped my family once, and now he believes I owe him my future." Cole's jaw hardened slightly. "You ran," he said. "Yes," she replied softly. "I didn't want power, I didn't want politics, I just wanted something simple, cooking. A small place where nobody watches me." Cole understood that deeply. Running wasn't always about fear. Sometimes it was about survival. Outside, the street became quieter. A few lights turned off in nearby buildings. The air felt heavier, like the whole town sensed something coming. Mara stood up suddenly. "We should eat before he arrives." She cooked quickly, simple stew and fresh bread. They ate at the counter like old friends. The silence between them felt less awkward now. "You used to have a ranch?" she asked carefully. Cole nodded. "What happened?" He took a slow breath. Talking about it felt strange. "I lost it," he said, "bit by bit." Mara didn't ask more. She just listened. "Some things you build," he added quietly, "don't stay yours forever." Myra looked at him with understanding. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. Then, without warning, a sleek vehicle stopped outside the diner. Both of them froze. The engine made a smooth humming sound, different from local machines. Clean, expensive. Mara's hands trembled slightly. "He's early," she whispered. Cole stood slowly. His movements were calm but ready. He placed his hat on his head and stepped closer to her. Remember, he said softly, we don't look afraid. Mara nodded, though fear still flickered in her eyes. The door opened. A tall man entered, dressed in dark clothing that looked too formal for Dry Creek. His hair was perfectly styled. His eyes were sharp and calculating. Verk saw. He paused just inside the doorway, scanning the room. His gaze landed on Mara first, and something cold moved behind his eyes. Mara, he said smoothly, you disappeared without saying goodbye. Mara stepped forward. Her voice stayed steady. I chose a different life. His gaze shifted to Cole. And this is? Verk asked. Cole stepped beside her naturally, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Cole, he said simply. Verk studied him. The silence stretched. And you are? Verk pressed. Her boyfriend, Cole answered without hesitation. The word felt strange in his mouth, but he kept his expression calm. Verk smiled faintly, but there was no warmth in it. How interesting, he said. I didn't expect you to settle for frontier company. Mara's hand moved slightly, brushing against Cole's arm. The contact was small but meaningful. I didn't settle, she said firmly. I chose. Verk's eyes narrowed. He walked slowly around the room, observing everything like he was judging it. His presence filled the diner with tension. I came to offer you a better future, he said. One you should not ignore. I'm not interested, Mara replied. Verk stopped. His smile faded just enough to reveal irritation. You misunderstand, he said quietly. This is not only about interest, it is about responsibility. Cole spoke before Mara could respond. She said no. Verk turned toward him slowly. And who are you to speak for her? He asked softly. Cole didn't raise his voice. Someone standing with her. The two men looked at each other, one calm and steady, the other cold and calculating. Finally, Verk laughed quietly. Very well, he said. I will return tomorrow. Perhaps you will reconsider when emotions calm. He walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Cole, he added without turning around, be careful when stepping into stories you don't understand. The door closed behind him. The diner felt heavy with silence. Mara released a shaky breath. Cole watched the empty doorway. He's not done, he said. Mara nodded slowly. No, he never is. Outside, the large ship in orbit shifted slightly, its lights glowing brighter against the dark sky, like a signal that the real conflict had only just begun. The diner stayed quiet long after Verk Saul left. Mara stood behind the counter, staring at the closed door as if she expected it to open again at any moment. Her shoulders were tight, and her breathing came slowly, like she was trying to calm a storm inside her chest. Cole didn't rush her. He moved around the room quietly, checking the windows and locking the back entrance. His movements were calm and steady, but his eyes remained sharp. Years of living alone had taught him how to watch for danger without making noise. Outside, the street lights flickered on one by one. The town of Dry Creek settled into nighttime routines, but the feeling in the air had changed. The large ship still floated above the planet, a silent reminder that someone powerful was watching. You don't have to stay, Mara said suddenly. Her voice was soft, almost lost in the quiet. Cole looked at her. You asked for help. Yes, she replied, but I didn't expect you to stand against someone like him. Cole leaned against the counter. I didn't expect to either. Mara almost smiled at that, but worry returned quickly. He won't give up, she said. He never does, Cole nodded. Then we don't back down easily. She hesitated, then walked closer. Why? The question hung between them. Why help me? She asked again. You barely know me. Cole looked away for a moment, thinking. The truth wasn't simple. He wasn't sure he even understood it himself. Maybe because I know what it feels like, he said finally. When someone tries to take away your choices. Mara listened carefully. She didn't ask for details. She didn't need to. They closed the diner together and prepared for the next day. Morning arrived slowly, painted in gold and red light. The town woke early. Ranchers rode out with cattle. Mechanics opened their shops. Traders argued over prices. But everyone kept glancing up at the sky. The ship remained. Cole stepped outside with a mug of coffee, scanning the street. Two strangers stood near the far end, dressed in clean uniforms that didn't match the town. They spoke quietly while looking toward the diner. Verk's people. Cole didn't react openly. He simply took another sip of coffee and returned inside. Mara was already cooking. The smell of fresh bread filled the room, but her movements were tense. They're watching, Cole said quietly. She nodded without surprise. He always watches before making a move. Cole leaned against the counter. Then we give him something to see. Mara looked confused. If this is going to work, he explained, we need to look real, not just when he's inside. Her cheeks turned slightly red. Oh. Cole gave a small shrug. You asked me to pretend, let's make it believable. Myra took a deep breath and nodded. Throughout the morning, they worked closer together. Cole helped serve customers. Myra smiled more often. They talked quietly, shared small jokes, and moved like people used to each other's presence. The town noticed. Old ranchers raised eyebrows. Miners whispered. A mechanic nodded at Cole like he understood something. The watchers outside continued to observe. At first, the closeness felt like an act, but slowly something changed. Mara began to relax around him. She spoke more freely. She laughed louder. Sometimes she forgot to be afraid, and Cole noticed something unexpected. He didn't feel like he was pretending anymore. That afternoon, a sudden problem pulled them together. A delivery drone malfunctioned behind the diner, crashing near the storage shed. Smoke rose into the air. Without thinking, Cole ran outside. Myra followed close behind. They worked together quickly, shutting down the power core, moving crates away from the heat, making sure nothing caught fire. When it was over, they stood close, breathing hard. Myra laughed softly from relief. You move fast, she said. Cole shrugged. Old habits. She looked at him with new appreciation. Thank you, she said. He nodded. Their eyes met for a moment longer than necessary. Neither looked away immediately. Later, as the sun lowered, the tension returned. A message arrived through the diner's communication panel. A calm, smooth voice filled the room. Mara, Verk said, I hope you are well. I will visit again tonight. I believe we have more to discuss. The message ended. Myra's face tightened. Cole crossed his arms. He wants another confrontation. Yes, she whispered. Then we give him one. She looked at him carefully. You're not afraid? Cole thought for a moment. I am, he admitted quietly. But fear doesn't decide everything. Mara nodded slowly. As evening approached, they prepared together. Mara changed into a clean but simple outfit. Cole fixed his coat and hat. They practiced standing close again, but this time it felt natural. You don't have to touch me if you're uncomfortable, Cole said gently. Mara hesitated, then lightly placed her hand on his arm. I'm not, she said. The contact felt warm, real. Outside, the sky turned deep blue. The ship above seemed brighter against the darkness. The door opened. Verk entered again, calm and controlled. His eyes immediately noticed their closeness. I see the performance continues, he said. It's not a performance, Myra replied firmly. Verk studied her face, searching for weakness. He turned toward Cole. You are still here, he said quietly. Cole nodded. Told you I would be. Verk walked slowly around them like a predator testing boundaries. Mara, he said, you misunderstand your situation. Your family's future depends on you. Running away does not erase responsibility. I decide my future, she replied. Verk's expression hardened slightly. And this man, he asked. Do you truly believe he can protect you from everything? Mara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked at Cole. He didn't speak, he didn't make promises. He simply stood there, calm, steady, present, and something shifted inside her. Yes, she said quietly. I do. Verk's smile faded. The tension in the room grew heavy. I will return tomorrow, he said coldly, and when I do, I expect clarity. He turned and left. The door closed behind him. Silence filled the diner again. Myra released a breath she didn't realize she was holding. Cole looked at her. That wasn't pretending, he said softly. She shook her head. No, she admitted. It was. Outside, the lights of the ship brightened again, as if signaling that the final confrontation was coming soon. And for the first time since he arrived on dawnbreak, Cole didn't feel like a man passing through. He felt like someone who finally had a reason to stay. The night before Verk's return felt longer than usual. Dry Creek Station moved through its normal routines, but people sensed something heavy coming. The large ship still floated above the town like a silent storm cloud. Its lights blinked slowly, reminding everyone that powerful outsiders rarely came without a reason. Inside the diner, Mara cleaned the counter again and again, even though it was already spotless. Cole watched her quietly. You don't have to keep working, he said gently. Mara stopped, realizing her hands were moving without purpose. She placed the cloth down and leaned against the counter. I keep thinking, she admitted softly. What if pretending wasn't enough? What if he decides he doesn't care? Cole nodded slowly. Then we handle that when it happens. She studied his face. You say that like everything is simple. It isn't, he replied calmly, but worrying about every possibility doesn't change anything. Mara sighed, but she looked slightly calmer. Outside, the wind moved through the street, carrying the faint sound of music from a nearby saloon. Life continued. That was one thing Cole respected about frontier towns. They kept moving forward no matter what hovered above them. He stepped closer to her. "You still want me here?" he asked quietly. Mara looked surprised by the question. "Yes," she said immediately. Then she hesitated, choosing her words carefully. Not just because of the plan, Cole understood. The silence between them felt different now, warmer. Morning came with pale sunlight stretching across the desert-like plains. People gathered early near the main street. News traveled fast in small towns, and everyone knew something important would happen today. Cole stood outside the diner, leaning against a post. His hat shaded his eyes as he watched the sky. A smaller shuttle detached from the large ship and descended slowly toward the landing pad. "He's coming," Mara said behind him. Cole turned. She stood in the doorway, calm but determined. Fear still lived in her eyes, but it no longer controlled her. "You ready?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes." They stood side by side as the shuttle landed. Dust rose into the air. Verk stepped out, dressed as perfectly as before. Two guards followed at a distance, silent and watchful. He approached slowly, his gaze moving between them. "I hope you slept well," he said smoothly. Mara didn't respond to the polite tone. "Say what you came to say." Verk's eyes narrowed slightly at her confidence. "Very well," he replied. "I will be direct. You belong to a powerful family. Agreements were made, futures planned. Your disappearance has caused complications." "My life is not a contract," Mara said firmly. "It is when your decisions affect more than yourself," he answered. Cole crossed his arms. She already made her choice. Verk glanced at him briefly, then returned his focus to Mara. "Is that true?" he asked quietly. "You would throw away everything for this place, for him?" Mara hesitated only for a second. "Yes." The word felt strong in the air. Verk studied her carefully. He wasn't angry. He looked almost disappointed. "You are making a mistake," he said softly. "Maybe," she replied, "but it will be my mistake." A small crowd gathered at a distance, pretending to walk by but clearly watching. Verk noticed them. "You think these people will protect you?" he asked. "I don't need protection," Mara answered. "I need respect." Cole felt something shift inside him as she spoke. The shy cook who avoided attention now stood tall and certain. Verk sighed quietly as if something had finally become clear. "I offered you influence, safety, wealth," he said. "You choose a diner and a wandering cowboy." Mara smiled faintly. "I choose peace." Silence followed. Finally, Verk gave a small nod. "I see," he said. "Then my business here is finished." Mara blinked, surprised. "That's it?" she asked cautiously. Verk looked at her one last time. "I do not force loyalty," he said. "It loses value when taken unwillingly." "You made your position clear." He turned to leave, then paused. "You should know," he added without looking back. "Not many people stand against expectations and remain calm. I respect that." With that, he walked toward the shuttle. The guards followed. Moments later, the shuttle lifted into the sky, returning to the larger ship above. Slowly, the ship began to move away, shrinking into the distance until it disappeared among the stars. The town exhaled as one. Mara stood still, as if waiting for something else to happen. When nothing did, she laughed softly, a small, surprised sound. "It's over," she whispered. Cole nodded. "Yes," he said. The day passed like a celebration without music. Customers filled the diner, curious and relieved. Some gave Cole approving nods. Others told Mara they were glad she stayed. For the first time since he arrived, Cole felt part of something again. As evening came, the diner became quiet. They cleaned together, moving easily side by side. Finally, when the last light faded from the sky, Cole picked up his coat. "I should go," he said. Mara froze. "Go," she repeated. He nodded slowly. "That was the deal. One night, maybe a few days. You're safe now." Mara stepped closer, her expression serious. "And what about you?" she asked. "What about me?" "Are you leaving because you want to?" she asked softly. "Or because you think you should?" Cole didn't answer immediately. He had spent so long drifting that leaving felt like habit. Mara took another step forward. "When I asked you to pretend," she said quietly, "I thought it would only be an act, but somewhere along the way it stopped feeling like one." Cole's heart felt heavier. She looked directly into his eyes. "Did it feel real to you too?" she asked. He swallowed. "Yes," he admitted. The word felt honest and freeing at the same time. Mara smiled gently. "Then maybe," she said, "we don't have to pretend anymore." Outside, the twin moons rose slowly above the horizon. Cole looked around the diner, the warm lights, the smell of fresh food, the sense of belonging he thought he had lost forever. For the first time in a long while, leaving didn't feel right. He set his coat down. "I guess," he said quietly, "I could stay a little longer." Myra laughed softly. "Good," she replied. And under the soft glow of the diner lights, the heartbroken cowboy finally stopped running, not because he had nowhere else to go, but because he had finally found a place and a person worth staying for.